Welcome to the Reality After Show covering Survivor, Season 46, Episode 8, Hide and Seek. I almost said the challenge because typically when you just see me and Dan here, we're talking the challenge, specifically Challenge All-Stars 4, which y'all see later this week, because that's cooking. But I'm your host, Alex Trias, joined as always by my tribe mate who would never fake quit at tribal council. It's Dan Montchal.
I'm done. I'm quitting the podcast. I'm done. That's just going to be my bit for the rest of the season is no, I'm done. I'm done. I can't do it because
Just for a small mistake.
Q loves to play himself the martyr role.
Remember in episode 1, I said he gave me Russell Swan vibes and everyone was like, nah, you're missing here. You're missing here. I see it. I see it more and more each episode.
The only thing that we were missing is when they lost, I don't know, the third immunity challenge or fourth because they got survived one, is he didn't get the temper tantrum from him, Russell Swan-esque in Philippines, being like, I don't know why you put me here, God.
Well, we got it from Banu.
That is true. That is true. We did.
So Banu was like, I got you on this line. I know, Q, you don't want that on camera. I'll do it for you. Why, God? Why would you put me on this beach? And if you thought we would be able to go an episode without making fun of Banu's Buddha episode, you're wrong. But we're here talking about episode 8. Obviously, I missed last week. I was out and about with some friends finally for a watch party of my own. But here we are, Dan, coming out of last week's episode, double boot episode. From where I was, it was very positively received.
I'd say overall it was positively received because, I mean, there wasn't too much that you could really criticize in last week's episode. Sure, one of the biggest things, but it's been all across the new era, has been once the merge happens, I just want to see a standard episode. Mm-hmm. But if you're always going to compare it to, what Survivor used to be, well, then you're never going to be able to enjoy it again. And you have to be able to kind of separate it and enjoy it for what it is. It's a different version of Survivor. It's still Survivor.
It's Survivor.
Yeah, and it's Q Survivor. And it's been once we've gotten past the whole Banu of it all, it hasn't been bad. I'm not going to sit here and it's been great. The season's completely turned around, but it's been a few solid episodes in a row.
Yeah, so, we had the old school, the mid school, the new school, and then we had the new era. I'm sorry, the new era has become the shortest timeline ever because it was from 41 to halfway through 46 because starting at episode 8, we have entered the era of Q school.
I'm out. I quit again.
Just a little mistake.
Just a little mistake.
Very little mistake. No, but I love it. I honestly, I love nothing more than a person who just goes into a full-fledged delusional power trip. And that's what we have with Q. And I love that it's just like so authentically delusional. It's TV. It's TV.
Well, the best part about what you just said is, yes, we're in a full, Q delusion timeline right now. But every time that we get a break from it, it's to see someone else in their own delusional head, because we got that from Venus. We got that from Tevin tonight. We also got a little bit of that from Liz, that it's just like, this is, it's something else. It's entertaining. I wouldn't say that really most of these people here from what we've seen are great Survivor players. Some of them still could be. Who knows what happens the rest of the season? But it's more enjoyable this way. I love seeing messy players because that's where you get the entertainment. I don't want everyone to go in and be like, oh, no, we ran the numbers. This is the right way to go about it. No, I want to see people that are going to throw a wrench in everyone's plan. Maybe not the martyr approach, but it worked.
Not how he intended it. Who knows? We are going to get into episode 9 with Q claiming it was all part of a master strategy to get Tiffany back on board, even though it actually blew up his own game. But, in Q's mind, everything is a game move because Q is a game changer. And you know what he doesn't like? When people do the old stuff of having a social game, talking with people after the vote who got blindsided. He's like, no, we gotta loop Ben in and tell him to be quiet.
You know, game changers too. He can take that Haley Ford spot.
Truly. Hey, he's better than Haley Ford. I know you love Haley Ford.
We'll see.
I know you love Haley Ford, but
I
yeah,
love her more for the jokes, not necessarily because I ever thought she was a great player. But
okay. But we are in a spot where so we see them come back. Ben sort of just like lost his whoosome twosome. Never thought he would cry over a guy, but he's crying over Tim going. Good for you, Ben. This is one of the 2 moments we see you. Literally. And then like Q sort of just pissed because in his mind, like it should always be game mode. It should always be game mode. The vote even though the vote just happened, it didn't impact him. So the game should still be going on. We should be already talking about the next round. But everyone has to go and Kyle Ben. But then everything shifts when the other group comes back and the girls are shocked when they see Venus come in first. And Venus outs that like Tevin and Soda voted her, but she had this master plan to take out Soda, and it was 100% Venus who did it. And you have Tevin being like, oh, I don't need the credit. I'm glad that Venus is taking the front for this. But he literally has to go and talk to every single person under their breath, be like, Venus thinks she did it, but I'll tell you later what actually happened. So like you did want the credit, Tevin.
They all wanted the credit. The only 2 that didn't want the credit are the only 2 that have a shot at potentially winning this game in Charlie and Maria, because they're the only 2 that weren't speaking up. When it came down to how it was going, that entire old Nami tribe was turning against each other. So whoever those 2 decided they were going to vote, that's who was going home, which are the only 2 that aren't claiming credit for, hey, this was my move. That's why Soda went home.
Side note here. Are we now in a more firm stance that like we can start to separate who we think are the actual contenders?
Yes, because half this cast has no chance.
Because I still think I'm even pushing Marie on the outskirts of contender.
She's on the bubble.
She's in the play-in.
Yeah, she's in the play-in. She's not completely dead yet, but she's not there.
Because I just have issues with, because I obviously I wasn't on last week. I have issues just like Charlie. Like this is the first episode where I'm really starting to turn, and like I get to see Charlie a little more. We're getting to flesh out his strategy a little more and his insight as like juxtaposition to Q. Because like you have like the next morning and Charlie's like, y'all, if you ever go and play Survivor, you need to be up at sunrise because that's when the moves are happening. That's where the game is played. And so he has this conversation with Q and Hunter, and he like quickly realizes he's being interviewed to essentially take Tim's spot. And obviously, you yes man it, even though Charlie really does not want to work with Q. And like so, I just got more of appreciation for Charlie's gameplay this episode.
You do see more of it. This is probably the most that we've seen of Charlie's gameplay, which going back to last week, it does show how adaptable he is because he had the confessions, was it last week, 2 weeks ago? I don't know. It all blends together.
It all blends together.
Of Q being on his radar for how he was talking to him. Yeah, it was last week's episode. It was post the Mo vote where Q, came and grilled him. And he was like, I don't like that. Q's now, on my radar. He's someone I want out of this game. And he's at least flexible enough to see how the game shifted a little bit. Q has a lot of the power. So why not keep his options open? He's not getting stuck in his head of, oh, it definitely has to be Q. In his mind, he sees this opportunity presents itself. And it doesn't mean that he's definitely working with Q, but he's not opposed to doing it for a little while if it's beneficial to his game.
And that's what I more so appreciate is like him being fully aware, not because you have Maria, and because you have to compare a duo together. Maria finds out about this 6 and being brought in, and she's all on board because she's like, "Oh, this gets me the final 6. This is my ride or die group. This is what I'm doing." Charlie gets initiated in, gets a little bit more to context. Like this, I'm not even an original member. This 6 isn't. This is not worth the paper that it's printed on, as the saying goes. Or it's. I hope it's a saying. I've been wrong before on this podcast,
I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one.
but whereas she was just like very willing to just grab at the opportunity of what gets you farther. Charlie's allowing himself to be like, yes, I will join this, but I actually want to keep my options open. Where you had Maria earlier in the season constantly saying, I want options. I want to figure out what's the best path. But then she truly stuck to one until this episode, obviously. Whereas Charlie was like, no, a move needs to happen and take out someone within the 6. And throughout all the episode, we think, oh, it's Q. Q is the person who's going to get taken out. It'll be like a big spectacle. Maybe an idle play happens. Who knows? But Q goes home, and then everyone's shocked faced because now the 6 is actually dead. That's not what we got. But overall, I just wanted to really hype up Charlie's game awareness there.
No, that makes sense. I mean, the 6 is actually dead, just not the way that we thought it was going to happen through most of the episode anyway.
Yeah. So, okay. So we have all that. And then we have like Tevin and Liz, where it's like, or no, we first have Venus and Tevin, where Venus is like spilling all this stuff. She's talking about how it's her plan, that he prides himself on being like honor and integrity, but lied to Venus, which everyone else is obviously going to just roll their eyes at because they're like, well, yeah, he doesn't like you. So who really cares if he lies to you? Y'all haven't been working together. Y'all have been actively opposed to each other. But you know what? When it's Venus, it's okay in my books.
Poor Venus. But I've enjoyed this. I know she's been getting a lot of hate online. Once again, please just stop blasting these people online. There's no reason for that. It's okay to be critical of someone's game moves, but if you're going personal, there's no reason for that. Plus, it's what makes the show better. We all understand that Venus has no shot at winning this game. We all see the flaws in her game. But her having this arrogance of being like, yes, I pulled off the move, it makes the episode better because we're all able to kind of laugh and chuckle and be like, oh, she has no idea.
Absolutely. And then you get that Tevin like sort of laughing about it with Liz. And Liz is like, no, Venus is being this. I thought I was a cocky bitch. Look at Venus right now. Just like going on like a full like political tour about how she made this master stroke, which again, I love that Venus doesn't play like a super fan that gets cast on this show. Because like she is a fan of this show, but she plays very like almost like I don't know, like Bravo-esque of a character.
Yeah. No, she could be like on a dating show, one of the, the Netflix shows, or like a housewife show or something like that. Venus would fit perfectly into that.
For sure. But this is where we start getting some Liz insight, which I've been severely lacking.
Well, she's been dead for 2 weeks.
She still is. She hasn't eaten in 16 days. But you have her confessional just being like, this is really making me realize I don't want to get lost in the shuffle, because if I'm not a part of the action, then the action will be taken on me. So I need to figure out what I need to do here. And I don't know. We bash Liz a lot on here, but even if it's obvious, I will give kudos when you see game awareness. However, just like how I don't think it was smart for Tevin's game to take out Soda, right at final 11 at that point because Tim's out. I don't think Liz needed to be so proactive of getting Tevin out here.
I agree with that, because what is her, so sure, she wants to start playing, she has game awareness, realizing that she's not making the big moves, or she's not going to get the respect of moves that are on her quote unquote resume. But that's fine. You have this plan, you want to take out Tevin, but what's your plan after that? Like, you've been working with Tevin. I think there still would have been a path that the two of them could have worked together, and you could have gotten him out later in the game. Sure, Tevin's out now. Who's she working with moving forward? Now, maybe she does have some relationships that we just haven't been shown. But from everything that we know, okay, so she's just kind of by herself. What path does that give her moving forward? Unless you're just, I'm going to kind of go with the outcasts, the ones that aren't on the 6. But the 6 isn't even a thing anymore. So I just don't see how she navigates further in the game. If she gets further, I think it's more because she's drug along, not because of anything that she is proactively doing.
It's like Liz is someone who I'm like, if I'm in a 3, that I'm like, I don't care if I'm up against them. Like, I want to go to a 3 with you. She's 4. I bring her to 4. I put her on fire, and she's not going to start one. In my opinion, just because of just how lack of nutrition she has. And yes, everyone's starving, but she's actually starving.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact is she's able to move around at all. I still think it's a mistake to have had her cast if she can't eat anything on the island, but she's making it work for herself. I just don't see how any of them give her the vote when her first thing is talking about how much money she has.
Oh, I said it last week when I was talking with Matt. I was like, if you can find yourself in a final 3 alliance and go to the end with Liz and Venus, congratulations, person X, if you can pull that off, because you've won $1 million.
For sure. And there's some people out there that are trying to meme this and say, who else has been under-edited with very little confessionals halfway through the game and ends up winning? And it's like, is she the next Erica? And I'm like, please don't put that in the universe. Don't do it. Don't do this to me. She can be iconic in a different way. In what way? I don't know. But we have that thread with her, at least. That's the story. That's Liz's plot line this episode is she needs to make a move. She's now getting impulsive. She's tired of just being tired and sitting around and just being part of a vote, and wants to make a move against someone that actually makes a statement. Whether it falls to her is a different story entirely. But the only other thing in this first segment of the episode that I didn't touch on was, Dan, would you wear a Q skirt?
I mean, if they're talking about selling it for as cheap as what he wants to sell it for, maybe, who knows? Maybe, I'll wear that with my Survivor expert shirt, and it'll just be a fashion icon,
There you go. You just have to keep whipping the hood.
Just keep
right in front of it. Don't even have to wear anything under it, he says.
It's at least it's a fun moment. To me, I kind of just laughed and rolled my eyes a little bit, but you're seeing more of Q's personality because he said he's finally eating. And while I may have soured a little bit on Q, it's nice to see it because I'd like to see him keep, through this episode rolling to the top of that roller coaster hill before it all comes crashing and plummeting down.
Absolutely. So it's funny with him because it's like it was the segment too long? Yeah. But for it being a 90-minute episode, I was just here. I was sit back on my seat and I was like, I'm gonna just enjoy this ride. I'm gonna enjoy the delusion. and just seeing how cringeworthy this sale pitch of a Q skirt is. And you know what? It paid off for me. I'll buy some Q skirt stock right here, right now.
Well, I mean, sure, you could say that it went a little too long, but so did the hide and seek game. I know you've touched on it a few times throughout the season, Alex, is when they were making the show, they didn't realize that it was going to be for 90-minute episodes. So we're going to see a lot more of the camp life, which is funny when people bash that, because people have been asking for more camp life for years.
Yeah. And you know what? That's the next segment. I'm going to tell you something. I loved the hide and seek segment.
Oh, I didn't dislike it. I thought it was a tad bit long. I didn't think it needed to be like the entire commercial break, but I wasn't mad about it.
I'm going to have a hotter take. I think it should have been half the episode.
Yeah, I can't get behind that.
only because I just need Hunter, not Hunter, because Hunter doesn't give us anything. Q narrating why every single person is making a big mistake. That's what I need. Every single person, he's explaining how they made a big mistake. Liz didn't try too hard to hide. That's a mistake. She's trying to play. Liz found somebody. She's trying to play the game now.
Well, and even the one time where it goes to Liz and Liz gets to do it is it's about Tiffany. It's like, oh, she didn't hide her buff. You could see the red. Maybe she doesn't pay attention to detail. So that's going to be her downfall. It's just like, her only downfall to this point is aligning with Q. But other than that, she's kept everything else pretty buttoned up.
I agree. But I love it. And it would be like, there's 4 people left hiding. And they find Kenzie. And he goes, see, Kenzie has been this camouflage as a social game. And that's a threat. She's hiding in plain sight. I'm like, there's still 3 people literally you have not found. Is it only because they're all part of the 6? Because then you find Maria. And then you have Venus being like, she put stuff in her hair. That means she's adaptable. I'm like, that's a wrong read about Maria. Maria wants to be loyal.
Yes, yeah. But almost every single read was wrong.
Which I find hilarious. That's why I love the segment. I love the segment because of how wrong they all are. And then you get like Ben and Hunter, and he's like, Ben is a clear threat because he's hiding in plain sight. Where it's like, he just laid in the ground and put his shirt over his head. It's like, yeah, do it. But then you have fucking Hunter up in a tree above camp. And then he's like, oh, Hunter made a big mistake, my ally. Why are you hiding in a tree? If you're hiding in a tree, that means you can go after me. And that means you gotta go.
I loved how they even said, Hunter, the game's over. And he's like, nah, I'm just chilling in my tree here. Like, I'm good.
I think he fell asleep.
He could have. It was perfect. I mean, he did pick the perfect tree because it was right above the shelter. So eventually they, Q spotted him up there. But yeah, he was just hanging out.
It's just funny because it really just shows when like someone allows their paranoia to just like fully take over themselves. Because it's like he's using this game. And I wrote in my notes before anything started where he was like, let's play hide and seek. I'm like, he thinks this is a game move. And then 30 seconds later, everyone thinks I'm just doing this for fun, but this is a game move. I'm like, everything's a game move for him. It does not matter what happens. If he fails at a challenge, it was a game move. I always intended to lose first. It's like, I love it. I love this dude.
Well, the only thing that was disappointing is that when he came out and someone spotted him, he wasn't like, all right, I quit. This whole game's over. It's stupid.
Oh, and notice how when he finds someone, that doesn't make him a threat.
No, not at all. This is Q's game.
That's what I needed.
World.
I needed a confessional of him having to call himself a threat and say he had to target himself. And just be fully in the bit at that point.
It would have been perfect. I just don't think he has that much self-awareness.
It's Q's game.
In the game, anyway. In real life, he could, but in the game, I think his self-awareness is lacking.
Well, everyone said we're not in Survivor anymore. Yeah, we're in Q. It's Q Survivor now.
It was a weird episode that we leaned into Q 110%.
A full Banu, you would say.
A full Banu.
Yeah, we get all that, and I actually liked it. I liked it from the perspective of the difference between Q and Banu is at least like Q is doing all this, and very much you can tell it's at least in a game sense. Like he's driving the narrative, he's doing what he wants to do. He wants to be the kingpin, he wants to be the mob boss. Here's all these ways that I'm going to prove to the viewers that I'm being super strategic and I'm playing this game and I'm playing it hard. But he just, like you say, he just doesn't have that awareness. And you know who else doesn't have awareness?
Who's that?
Venus and Tevin.
It's half the tribe doesn't have awareness. But yes, go on.
Because we have Tevin making like a chessboard or a checkered flag. Depends what you want to actually view it as. But he like it's them going back and forth a little bit here of like Venus trying to like, you know, like talk about how she made the move, how it all happens in an attempt to be like, we don't need to go after each other. And Tevin's still playing dumb. Tevin's still being like, you know, I'm just playing by the moment. I'm doing this. But like Venus still like in her confessional is like fully buying this to an extent because she's like, how are you not paying attention? How did you not expect me to want to go after Soda, your number one, that you definitely did not want to take out for reasons?
You have all that, and then it's Tevin. He just can't help himself then around Liz because it's almost like he needs to say, oh, this was really my move. Where it's just like, if you're supposed to be working with Liz and you did this move together, whether you think it's your move or not, if you're confident that you can get to the end, you can pitch it as your move, that's great. But you know what you don't want to tell to your ally? Oh, this was my move. If you're trying to go further in the game with Liz, you lie to her, even if it was yours, and say, this was our move.
Right. And that's, I think, like a big crux of the issue with this season of players for the most part. Not all of them, but a good portion of them sort of, it's not even big move-itis. They just have move-itis. It's like you hear someone want to claim a move, and then suddenly you get this impulse of either claiming that person's a big threat because they are claiming a move, and then being upset and be like, but I wanted to claim the move. So that now my move is you. And that's the moment, at least in terms of what the editing is, that Liz is like, no, like I always wanted to have Soda out the first time. And these bitches are all saying it's their move, but I wanted to do it. So it's also my move. So that means Tevin has to go, even though I sort of, if you think about it in a weird sense, I have him wrapped around my finger because he thinks I'm wrapped around his.
Yeah, it makes no sense, especially because apparently, I don't know, I think for the fourth time this season, we had a confessional where here it was Venus of the first blindside of the season. Just like, you really think this halfway through the game is the first one of the season?
First one. I'm just blindsided every single time Q says he just wants to quit.
No, at this point, it's obvious. I'm expecting it.
It's Boy Who Cried quit.
At this point, it's almost like every other episode. Almost. I think this is the third reference to it that we've seen. And this is episode 8. And I was talking about this last week with Matt, was you could tell that he was doing it way more often because when he walked away from a conversation between Tiff and Kenzie, they're like, watch, he's going to come back and be like, you know what? Just vote me out. Like, I'm done. And so you know he's been doing this all season long.
It's that hero complex. You want to have full responsibility, and when things don't go exactly your way, you're like, well, I will just fall on the sword then. I'm going to take the ball and punt it 30 yards.
But if you're going to do that, you know, you need to embrace the full coach of being like, a true warrior would fall on the sword. Well, coach, what are you going to do? Well, not that.
Right.
The Dragon Slayer.
And then you have So we have the 6. And it's right after this scene happens, and you have Tevin talking with Tiffany. And Tiffany says that, like, look, Venus isn't a threat to anybody. Like, we can take her out whenever. There are other people we could take out. And Tevin's like, well, who should we take out? And Tiffany says, like, well, let's just wait to see who wins immunity. Then we'll see what our options are. And Tevin just takes it as, because you don't want Venus out, you're going against the 6. But I'm like, you still technically have like 3 other options to take out because I didn't know the 6 was 9 with Venus out on the end as this super dangerous person who hasn't won anything. Yeah. Interesting.
Which it was just weird because it's why, I mean, we've been talking about it for a few weeks now that all Venus needed to do was survive a few tribals, and she was going to make it further based upon thinking that most people were going to look at the game the way Tiff does, is she's not a threat to win. Let's take out someone who's actually a threat and just let her keep going. She has no chance.
Right. But I will say Tiffany doesn't make the mistake here of saying that to Tevin, because like you have to understand where your allies are coming from. And if you know these people have one-track minds on certain players, you at this point in time, you just have to like feed into it. And you have to be okay with it and then make the change after. Because when you don't do it, they don't feel heard. They think you're betraying them. They think you're fishy. You're going independent. You're going AWOL. So now the vote's going to get flipped on Tiffany because he tells Q, and Q's rule in Q Survivor is if you don't go with Q's plan, then Q has to get you out even if you're in his alliance. We'll just find someone new to put in the 6. Hey, Kenzie, you're now part of the 6. You're my +1.
If Q can somehow make it to the 6, I just want that confessional being like, guys, we did it. The 6 made it, when it's just completely like half new people. We brought you
all
into
new
the
people.
6.
All new people. Everyone else is out from the original 6. He's like, we did it, guys.
We got to the 6.
Truly. So we have all that. They tell Q. Q says, but I want to hear it from Tiffany. So he goes to Tiffany and says, who do you want out if it's not Venus? And that's when she mentions, and again, another slip up on her part is saying Maria. Because, like, then it's proving to them that you aren't in on the alliance. And even though you do end up saying Ben as well, and there's a third name, but I didn't hear it because obviously she's not going to say Kenzie. So I guess maybe she said Liz.
Liz would be the only other option.
Maybe Charlie at that point, because she's like, well, if I already said Maria, I could say Charlie too. But we have all that, and Q's like, okay, it's confirmation. Tiff has to go. And that's where we get the mob boss quote. And I just wrote like, oh, he's going home. You don't get to say mob boss in an episode Survivor unless you're going out.
I guess the addendum to that rule is you don't get to say mob boss unless you're going out, unless you first offer to quit. So
true.
The only way you survive it.
We wouldn't have known that unless we got into Q school. And
I could have lived without
Q school Survivor is when in doubt, do the martyr approach, and then no one will actually vote for you.
It was an option, not a good one.
It clearly was not an option based off of everyone's reaction at Tribal Council. But that gets us to the immunity challenge. And the immunity challenge, it's the poll. I don't understand why Jeff talks about how the records are like 2 hours when, like, watch the tapes of back when these records were being made and look at what the footholds were like then versus what they're like now.
Yeah, I mean, we're just never going to see those hour challenges. It's also, I mean, it went to Ozzy. Ozzy was, a freak, someone who was really good at challenges. But you're
But
right.
like
If we're not using the exact same components, then we can't compare it to
they were able to
what a
put
challenge
their
used to do.
full big toe on it, where it's like you saw it here. Like you can't even put like a third of your big toe like on those ridges at all.
Well, I know, like you and I, we were texting a little bit out it, and you thought, hey, Hunter or Kenzie would do well, and I responded. Of course, the two that I picked weren't doing all that well, but I was just thrown off because I was just memorized from D from last season. I was like, I don't know who has the biggest toe. If you can tell me who has the biggest toe, there's my winner pick.
Apparently, you didn't need toes this go around. But before we even start the conversation, I knew from just the angle, and it's also because it's Final 10. They always do it at Final 10 now, right after the split tribal is here's the rights negotiation. And you know what? It was still a fine negotiation because no one negotiated. You can't call it a rights negotiation. You're like, here's your one offer. And then you say you're not doing a negotiation. And then you give them another option. Like, Jeff doesn't know. Jeff needs to learn the art of the deal. So does the
Bring
person
in
who
it.
wrote that book, but that's a different story.
Bring in Angelina for
Bring
every
in
rice negotiation.
Angelina and have her run the rice negotiation on his behalf. Have her come out and be for production to the rice negotiation. Where was the knife? Where was the knife to cut into it?
That's what I was waiting for. I thought that's what we were going to get when Jeff was like, "Oh, I'll count down." I thought he was going to cut into the rice.
Same.
That was more exciting.
Yeah, but so I was surprised that we had Liz wasn't the first one to just straight up volunteer. And I was surprised she didn't try to guilt trip people to be like, y'all, I need this. This is something that I can actually eat. Like, and it's for everyone. Like, I have not eaten anything in 16 days.
Oh, if I was her, I would have guilt tripped the hell out of people.
Yeah, but she doesn't. And I don't know. And then you have Q, who's just like, I think Q just already determined he wasn't going to win this challenge. So he
Yeah,
was
it
like,
saves them
I'm
from having to
hungry.
throw
And
it.
yeah, I'm hungry. Food. When I have food, I have brilliant ideas like Q skirt
And hide and seek.
and hide and seek. Q skirt and hide and seek. But no one ends up doing it. Like you have a bunch of people flirting with the idea, but then they back off. Like Charlie's flirting with it to be like, oh, I will only go if someone steps forward right now with me, and no one does it. But I will give the take of I liked that there was no deal made.
Of course, because if there's a deal that they ultimately make every single season, you're just always going to assume that every time it comes up, it's going to happen. It would have been great had we seen a no deal happen prior to season 46, but we needed it to happen. And plus, it's just, we know we are casting more fans. Not everyone's a super fan out there. But I think that's, if you're a fan of the show, that's everyone's worst nightmare of being like, I stepped down from the challenge and then I got voted out.
I just had to pull this comment up. Kyle Doris says Q took the knife from Jeff to use on Tiffany.
Yeah.
It's all part of the plan. Never show Q that you have a knife. Because you have a knife on you, the knife could be on me, which means you gotta go.
He tried to stitch her up real good.
Yeah, he really stitched her up. But ultimately, everyone has to do the challenge. Liz and Q are immediately out within 20 seconds. I think Q's just like not like, even if he was going to be bad, I didn't think he was going to be that bad. I think he was just completely taken out by temper tantrum mode of not getting rice. So he's like,
Yeah.
I'm not even competing. Why
Yeah,
bother?
of course, because everything that Q does is poor so me. So it's, oh, I didn't get my way. I'll show him. Like, all right, you
Like,
step
I
down.
and honestly, you know what? I'm gonna give Liz props for even starting on the challenge. I thought she was gonna say, "I'm still just gonna sit out."
I mean, she made it 20 seconds. It's
She
good
made
for
it
her.
20 seconds. And then I'm like, oh, Kenzie should do really well. She's smaller. She could probably get more of a foothold. No, she's gone. Within seconds of me saying, oh, Kenzie and Hunter could do well, Kenzie's out.
That's my girl, but she's bad at challenges.
She's bad at physical challenges. And she's also bad at puzzles.
Yeah, just most challenges in
She's good
general.
at fire. So if she gets thrown into fire making,
She can do some balancing.
she can do some balancing. We got that. But Ben goes out, then Maria goes out, Tiff goes out. Tevin, after saying that he would be a peacock and that he's coming for Ozzy's record of 2 hours, does not hit that and is out. Then it's Venus, Charlie, and Hunter, and I'm like, oh, please give me a Venus immunity win, because the spectacle of her celebrating an immunity win at camp is something I desperately need.
Oh yeah, she wouldn't be able to shut up about it. But guys, did you see
She
me out
doesn't
there
take
on
it
that
off.
pole? Oh no, she's wearing it around all day. Like, guys, just so you know, I won this nice necklace earlier today. That means you can't vote for me.
Tevin.
Yeah, just so you know, you can't write my name down. I'm wearing this necklace. Like
Karma's
she'd
sort of a
wear,
bitch, isn't it?
she'd wear it to sleep. Like if she wanted, she'd wear it to sleep all the way up until it was taken back to the next immunity challenge, which I would have been all here for.
Very much same here.
But yeah, it was. I thought she had it. I thought she was doing really well, and then she dropped. And Charlie was doing well, but at this point, it just became obvious. It's like, all right, Hunter's going to win it.
Right.
Clearly, no
Yeah.
one's beating him.
So yeah, Hunter wins despite a good effort from Charlie, who tries to use him dangling at the very edge of, I got you right where I want you, Jeff. Give us 2 bags of rice. And unfortunately, Jeff says no. And he also says no to giving Taylor Swift comments. So you know what, Jeff? Bonus points for you this episode. Good on you.
Jeff Probst, not a Swiftie. Confirmed.
Jeff Probst, not a Swiftie, confirmed. Get after him, Swifties. Get after him. But Hunter wins, and Hunter gets a little cocky.
Oh, leaning back. Yeah.
The lean back of like, I was waiting to do this one.
Yeah.
I should have known. I shouldn't have even given Kenzie as an option to win this. I should have just said Hunter's winning this, because of course he would win this.
Now, you know he's made this at some point. He's talked about making a lot of these challenges back home. You know he's made this one at some point.
Right. And unfortunately, he has the going out of tribal or community challenge confessional of, well, why wouldn't everyone just want to stick to the plan and take out Tiffany here? She's available. What can go wrong? And boy, do things go wrong. And do they go wrong quickly?
Q can go wrong. That's what could happen.
This is what Q can do for you. So Q is pissed.
Fuck everything up.
Q's pissed that we didn't sit for rice. Y'all thought you could win? We have this dude playing hide and seek, hiding in a tree, dangling. He was always winning.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure some of the people, like for some of them that were there that were choosing not to, like they're all big fans of the show. Maybe they're, hey, I'm probably not going to win this, but this is a classic Survivor challenge. Like, let me give it a shot.
Right. And that's sort of my thought process of like, for me, maybe it's different if I'm on the island and I'm like starving. I'm like, yeah, maybe I don't have the best shot. Maybe I do help get us rice. But in a game of this season, like, y'all can't trust anybody. I'm not sitting for any of you because I can't trust that you won't actually return the favor and keep me in the game this round.
No, it's too unpredictable.
It's unpredictable. It's unpredictable. So we have all that, and Tevin is like talking with him about the TIF vote. He's like, yeah, that's still on. But don't worry, we need 6. Even though I have an extra vote, I can get it from Liz. Liz is locked in with us. She'll do what we want. Cut to Liz talking to Charlie and Maria, being like, y'all, I have this hard conundrum of, do I just want to stay and just go with the flow? Or do I want to make a fucking shot? And I need to take out Tevin. And I'm surprised how quickly Maria just says yes.
Do you think part of it is that because we don't see him as part of the 6, but I'd imagine that at least Charlie does anyway, still has a good relationship with Ben?
Oh,
And
absolutely.
it almost seems like that 3 can be more adaptable moving forward, because at this point, especially after this episode, they'd be the closest couple of 3, a thruple, closest thruple there. Yeah. And so they have all the options, because you would have thought, oh, coming into it, it's that Yanu 3, they're bonded together. Clearly they're not, because of what Q's about to do, that he's blowing it all up. So it kind of puts them in the driver's seat, because Nami has never been able to get on the same page pretty much this entire game. So for them, if they can kind of bounce back and forth as this new 3, like, they have a good shot of the 3 of it making it at least to 6. It may not be Q6 or anyone else's 6. They have a good shot of making it to 6.
I'd agree. I think they, just like how Yanu benefited in the first stage of merge from being in the bottom in terms of numbers. I think Sega now is in a position where they can be that as well, because they had 3 consecutive boots. They had 3 consecutive boots, cutting them in half, and they are tighter. They're tighter, and especially now they are tighter in comparison to Yanu, because now it's blown up because Q exposed everything. Like, Q tells Maria, who then tells Charlie that Tiffany has an idol. So her idol is now exposed around camp without her knowing at this point in time.
Yeah. Well, and they have all the options, because it's easy to, after this episode, to say, hey, we need to get Q out, because how can anyone trust them again? And it's easy for them to say, if you're looking at not, the 3 that are left from the Nami, is Hunter's clearly a challenge beast. We need to target him.
Nami.
Or it's always going to be Venus is an easy vote. All they really need to do is survive 2 more votes, and 3 of them are in a great spot until they decide to turn on one another, which will happen at some point.
Right. And like, the thing is with this Sega group, I don't truly see them betraying one another.
No, I think because I think what you'll end up having is, we have to see what the fallout is going into next week. And I think all that Q's done is bonded Tiff closer to Kenzie. We've seen Kenzie be able to make these bonds that get them in, maybe with Sega. Yeah.
So it's really helping my belief that Kenzie is a contender, because I think Tiffany now is going to be too much in the spotlight. She's going to be too much in the spotlight. She may get to have a successful idol play, but unfortunately for her, I think now this round in particular really puts too much light on her that she can actually have a realistic shot of getting to the end. And I hate that for her, because I love Tiffany.
Yeah, you pointed out she made a few small mistakes, but for the most part, she hasn't done much wrong other than put all this trust in Q. That's been her fatal flaw.
Absolutely. And so Liz starts spreading her plan of the Tevin vote. And you see Kenzie and Tiffany like immediately buy into it, which is like, it's fantastic. We're gonna get this big blindside on Tevin, but
First one of the season.
first one of the season, Tevin blindside. So we have all this. Kenzie's like, I want to take a back seat this round. I don't want it to always come across as Yanu is controlling the vote, which is smart.
It's very
Like,
smart.
I was like, Kenzie and Tiffany, good on y'all. You see an opportunity. You're gonna weaken Nami. You're gonna take out a strong number for them, and you're now going to Final 9 in terms of OG tries 333. And in both their minds, it works because in Kenzie's mind, it's Yanu 3 still. Like, it's still her, Tiffany, for sure, and then Q's still beneficial. I don't think she wants to go to the end with Q, but
No,
it's
not.
there. And from Tiffany, you're like, I have Kenzie, but I also very much have Q. Me and Q are number ones because she's not in the loop yet. And so because of that, she goes to Q and says, look, and I like her approach to this because she gives it the same way that Q gives it, of just being like fully straightforward here, of like, the votes are on Tevin. The numbers are already there. Does not matter where we vote. The vote is Tevin. So we already need to vote Tevin. And if we don't, eyes will be on you. And Q took this very well. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to adapt to someone else's plan. And it's going to be good. Q hates not being in control. And so he decides to pull Hunter in to be like, look, we're apparently all on the outs right now. It's us against the world. Tevin's going home. And Hunter's like, what do you mean? That's so stupid. That's so
Not
stupid, bro. He's my Andy Griffith, man. They can't go. And Hunter's acting... I understand why Hunter's acting this way, because Tevin's his legit number one. And so he's like, well, I want to problem solve this. Let me bring everyone together. And Q's like, and that is where I realized I fucked up.
This
and
is
I
where
messed
it
up
started.
big time.
It's where it started creeping into his brain. Like, I'll just go to tribal and I'll quit. It'll be fine. The marginal approach has worked for me every time so far.
Big coach fan in him. Big coach fan.
Loves him.
Hey, it's an episode title, Martyr Approach. But great episode. Go watch it on Paramount Plus. Not a plug, even though they should pay us. But they start talking again, and like Hunter blows off Venus, and Venus is like, wait, we're at Final 10. I've never seen Hunter blow anyone off to go talk strategy before.
Yeah,
now he's pointing at stuff. Now he's pointing at stuff, and I'm gonna walk over and tell all of them. It's sort of selfish of you all to sort of like just talk amongst yourselves and not talk to me. So can you like not and talk to me instead?
And think about how much better that'd be if she was still wearing that necklace. Like, it's really inconsiderate that you're not talking to me, especially because I'm here with my beautiful immunity necklace.
Exactly.
Wasted opportunity.
But, and then it just leads to her bit. Why can't we just fucking vote her out? She's annoying. But it's like not happening. It's either going to be a Tevin blindside or a Tiffany blindside. And at first, like, you're sort of leaving this being like, oh, like, is Tiffany gonna like crack wise to this and play her idol? Or is the plan going to be Tevin? Because in my mind, you're like, they leave you with Ben and Maria, and Ben specifically saying, well, with Tiffany said my number one's name, that's a problem. So I'm like, okay. So I guess he's going to fall suit to the plan, blindside Tiffany, because he wants to protect Maria. But doesn't seem to be the case. I think they were always going to vote Tevin here. I don't think the scrambling did anything different because that gets us to tribal. And we immediately just get to Q being like, I'm pissed. No one went for the rice. There's only one winner, one loser, so y'all can vote me home.
Reset
Vote
the
me
game.
out. Take me out of the game and y'all get a second life. Y'all get a second life at this game.
What a game changer.
But you need to actually think about playing the game. And everyone's just like reacting. Venus's face is hilarious during it. Like, everyone's like, what the fuck is happening? What is this?
I see. I was really thrown off for the longest time because as he's going, I was like, oh, is this how they're going to save Tevin? Was there a conversation between him and Hunter where they talked?
Right.
Did Hunter let it leak that he has an idol? And that's what I thought was going to happen at first. Was Q's pitch was going to be everyone pile on me. Hunter saves him, which also saves Tevin, and they take out Tiff or Venus.
Right. And like, I was thinking, is Hunter actually going to like play his idol for Tevin and like make sure that his number one stays? Because like he's safe.
Or that too, yeah.
And I'm like, what's this? What's going to happen? And like things are being said, and Q is phrasing everything in a way to like insinuate to like all sides that like something was happening that wasn't supposed to happen in theory.
Mm-hmm.
But because of last minute things, this specific person is in danger, which leads to a like quote unquote live tribal, where everyone's going around, everyone's trying to figure out what's happening, and during all this scrambling, because Liz is now just like pissed at the world, and she's like, I sort of just want to vote Q now. Fuck him. And I love Charlie's response to that of being like, no, we don't vote him. He doesn't get to have that luxury of being voted out. Like, he doesn't get to do this just because he's throwing a wrench in our plans that we just bow down and get to do this. We're doing our plan. So it's like everyone's still debating of, is it Tiffany? Is it Tevin? And Q decides to now tell Tiffany that Tiffany was going to get blindsided. And then Tiffany finds out from Charlie. Because I love Tiffany just going to Charlie, like, be straight with me. Be straight with me right here, right now. Was I going home? And Charlie, and like, do I need to grab my stuff? And because Charlie reveals to her, I know you have the idol. Who did you find out from? Q. Me and Maria know. And she's pissed. Kenzie's pissed. Everyone's pissed off right now. Hunter is pissed because there's a live tribal.
Do you think about what the chaos would have been? Q having the same approach had this happen, further on down the road after Australian Survivor this past season had already aired, with the whole Raymond of it all. It would have been glorious.
Truly. Had to stop and think on that. That would have been hilarious if it's just like unintentionally doing the same thing.
The same thing, that's obviously, Q didn't have the same advantages, but just in the back of people's head being like, wait a second.
Right. And so we have all this happening, and like we ultimately get to the vote. Everyone's just has this plan, and now the thing is, what's going to happen? Is an idol going to be played? Is Tiffany going to do it? And you know what? Kudos to Tiffany for having some massive stones. Like, that you could, like, everyone could still be lying to you right now, and it could be an 8-2 vote the other way.
Yeah, and plus you got to think that she has kind of that rage inside for being like, Q, like my number one is the one that let the secret out of the bag. So it would have been very easy for her just to be like, Jeff, I don't know what's going on. I'm just making sure it's not me tonight.
Right. And I'm hopeful that this just helps prove what we sort of said at the beginning of this season of like, Tiffany needs to realize that Kenzie is her true number one.
Mm-hmm.
Because who's the only person in this game who has not turned and been shady towards Tiffany? And that's Kenzie. Like, Kenzie is, at this point in time, straight up ride or die with Tiffany.
And side note, I do love how, because we saw it in this episode and then we see it in the preview for next one when things get chaotic. I love that she just says spicy.
Spicy. Got to have that lingo in there, right?
Yeah. It was. I ultimately agree with you. I think had this happened or not, I don't think much changes with the vote. Maybe it is an 8-2. Maybe the numbers are a little bit different. But I think in the end, everyone reverted back to let's just do what we said we were going to do coming into this tribal.
Yeah, I'm now, and so like the 6 is dead. There's no 6.
Again,
the 6 is dead. And you know what? Maybe having a 6, because we're at the end of the episode. Tevin goes out in an 8-2 vote. It's sort of reap what you sow by deciding to make a move that you really didn't need to make on Soda. And so now you can join her in Ponderosa, Tevin. Have fun with that. You get to say you've been blindsided on Survivor. Congratulations. I'm also sort of happy that he goes out because I predicted that him and Q would be the 2 most likely people to be voted out this episode as soon as they said, like, they made, like, the drama of the leading up to the episode being like, something big is going to happen. I'm like, well, it's not going to be a Liz boot.
no.
It's not going to be Venus going home. It's not, like, it's going to be a more focal character. So I was like, it's either Q because, like, narratively it makes sense, or it's going to be Tevin because Tevin got the first confessional, so everyone's like, oh, he's going to finale. Maybe not to the end, but to finale. And there was this weird Reddit post that came out after the premiere about how the person who gets the first confessional, like, it averages out where the person who gets the first confessional in the premiere finishes somewhere between, like, 10th to 8th place on average. Like, that's the most common placement for the person who gets it first. Like, obviously, like, you have Carolyn, who's a outlier there, gets to 2nd place or 3rd place, I forget, finalist.
3rd, yeah.
But so I was like, there was always something about Tevin. I was like, they had him strong at the beginning, and then they started taking away from his edit, and other people were shining. So I'm like, okay, Tevin could go. Could go here.
And it made sense for the 2 of them because, sure, they both were more main characters to this point in the season, but it also highlighted where the weaknesses were in their game, where their flaws were, which made it more obvious. Because, like, it would have been surprising had it been like Kenzie, because she's another person that we've seen a lot. But outside of Banu's meltdowns and Q,
right,
debating a few different times, we haven't seen her do anything that we've been shown being like, ooh, that could be a blind spot.
Right. Like, her blind spot was still Q to an extent here.
Oh,
but
100%.
Like, with Tevin specifically, because this is his boot episode, why does he go home? It's not being able to properly manage your pieces. You have to, it's like what you said earlier. When talking to Liz, you should be giggling and, like, high-fiving each other because you both just pulled off this move. Y'all did this shit. And instead, it's like, no, I have an ego right now, and I need you to know that it was my move.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Liz said, I wanted to vote Soda anyway, when he brings it up to her. So it's not really, you can't take full credit for a move in real time with someone who's still an active player in the game. Define active how you want, but Liz is an active player in the game.
She's breathing and still on the island. It may be barely, but she's there.
Exactly. So Tevin goes here. We're at 9. We have 3 left of Nami, 3 left of Siga, 3 left of Yanu, and a whole lot. I just think this season is just a bunch of chaos. It's just going to be a bunch of chaos the rest of the way. We'll maybe have a couple straightforward votes here and there, but I don't know. Don't come for the strategy in this season. Come for the entertainment of just being messy. And I think you'll really enjoy the rest of this season if you have that mindset to viewing it.
I completely agree. And, we mentioned at the top of the podcast, just saying, there's probably only half the cast are actually good players. But what makes it fun is with having this many wild cards, is, one or two of the people that we're looking at as good players are going to get kamikazed by one of the bad players, and where they do nothing wrong, but it's going to completely torpedo their game, which is going to be unfortunate for them. It'll be entertaining for us.
So with that does conclude this recap of Survivor 46, Episode 8. Obviously, John and Matt were not here with us because they are part of the quote-unquote world tour of Johnny and King George. They are currently doing their live party in Cincinnati, and they still have some more stops on the way, and you can get those, go to any of those events by going to survivortix.com.
Yeah, survivortix.com. I believe that he has Johnny and King George. They have 3 more stops left to go. Next week, they're going to be in Charlottesville, Virginia. The following week, on May 1st, they're going to be where I'm at in Charlotte, North Carolina. And then on May 15th, they're going to be in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So as Alex mentioned, you get tickets for all those at survivortix.com. That's survivortix.com.
And with that, we'll see you all next week. You'll see us doing Challenge All-Stars 4 with Lauren Pratt later this week. It's always going to be on a Friday or Sunday. So stay tuned. We love you all. Peace and good night.
All right, y'all.